Choosing Family by ginnyrules27. Chapter 35. CJ smiled slightly as she walked around Auradon Prep's grounds with Ryan. It was a good way to de-stress after that execution. She was kind of surprised Harriet had let her go, but CJ had stood her ground. After all, she had finally found out what that comment was that Freddie had made regarding her. Let's just say if Mal hadn't killed Freddie, CJ would have. Though I can't blame Harriet for her protectiveness when I was growing up. Or today, CJ thought with a small sigh. The whole reason I had to be in the back was because she didn't want to risk Freddie escaping and somehow getting at me. Not like he'd have been able to. What with the barrier, and with Harry, Harriet, Henry, Jay, and Ryan all there. Plus, I am rather skilled with a sword. Your hair's not braided, Ryan said, his voice soft, yet loud enough to break the silence. CJ shrugged, brushing a bit of hair behind her ear. She had taken to wearing her hair in a ponytail since she got to Auradon. I haven't had braids in a while. No one here does them as well as you do. Harry offered once, but the end result just wasn't the same. Evie offered after that, but like I said, no one here does them as well as you. Well, if you want your braids back, let me know while I get used to the fact that we are apparently allies with Evie. Mal had mentioned it earlier, but it's still strange to think about, Ryan said, giving her a small smile. For you, I'd be more than happy to do them. In fact, come on, we can sit under that tree there, and I'll get it done for you. CJ smiled as they walked over to said tree, Ryan sitting down so that he was between CJ and the tree, before quickly getting to work braiding her hair. He was still rather well practiced with them, so it took no time at all. Thanks, CJ said with a grin as she turned around. Taking a chance, she placed a small kiss on Ryan's lips. She wasn't going to lie. She had always dreamed a little of having Ryan be her first kiss. Something about the way his green eyes almost glowed with amusement whenever they did something they weren't supposed to drew her to him. She felt him stiffen a bit in shock, but it lasted for maybe a minute before he returned the kiss, smiling into it. It doesn't have to mean anything, CJ said as she pulled back. We can put it in the never speak of this again drawer if you want, but I wanted that to happen. Just once. You have no idea how long I've wanted to do that, Ryan said, his voice no higher than a whisper. It's just, you're a hook after all. Plus, you're my best friend. I didn't think it would be right. CJ shook her head. Why wouldn't it be right? You'd rather be kissing strangers? Like I said, you're a hook, Ryan said with a sigh and a slight shrug. But I'd much rather kiss you than a stranger. CJ shook her head once more, trying not to think about the fact that Ryan and Ginny had once kissed back on the aisle. Right. Being a hook doesn't make me any different from you. It just means I'm a bit better with a sword than most. Siege, you're practically pirate royalty. You'll be the captain of any crew you choose to be. Ryan sighed. But, like I said, you're also my best friend. It might not have been my first kiss, but it's the one that matters in my book. Right. The Isle doesn't have royalty. And if it did, then it's Mal, Haddie, and Uma. Not me. Yeah, I mean, the hooks are well known in pirate circles. And sure, I could probably walk into a pirate meeting and the room would stop talking once they knew. But that doesn't mean you're nothing. And it counts in my book too. It was my first kiss. Even if I do have to now restrain myself from going off and maiming Ginny. Hey, CJ. That kiss wasn't even a proper kiss, Ryan told her, giving her a small smile. It was maybe 10 seconds, and it wasn't even meant to happen. Our heads banged together as she was getting back up. As for the pirate royalty, your father's the most feared pirate captain on the Isle. Probably the only one more feared would be Long John Silver,
but no one's seen him in a while, so he's probably somewhere in Oregon. Trust me, CJ, I might not be nothing, but I'm not exactly the same social level either. And Ginny was just doing it to get food after Henry turned her down for a fling for food. And, like I said, it wasn't even meant to happen. It didn't mean anything, okay?
You were 14 when it happened. I'm not even sure that's legal, even by our standards. CJ muttered, then shook her head. No matter, though. She heeded my warning, considering she never went near you again. You know she's actually with an AK now. Actually, she's with a royal, from what Mal said. Cinderella's son. You're joking! Who would have thought of that? No one, really, but from what Mal and Uma have said, they're happy together.
Ryan smiled. Well, good for her, I guess. But really, CJ, what happened meant nothing. In fact, the entire time I was kissing her, I was wishing she was you.
Really? CJ asked, her voice slightly soft as she looked into his green eyes, that lately had a way of making her feel like she was both melting into goo and floating on a cloud when she thought about them.
Yes, really. I mean, she wasn't forceful or anything with it. Like I said, it was an accident anyway. Honestly, it was like a rock in my stomach because I kept thinking that now I honestly couldn't say that the girl I wanted to be my first kiss.
Well, and trust me, I'm not exactly thrilled that Ginny Gothel got your first kiss either, Rye. But at least you got my first kiss. Doesn't that at least count for something? 'Cause it does to me.
Of course it does. It means everything to me, Ryan said, gazing into her brown eyes.
CJ smiled at him and cupped his cheek with her hand. Good. You're my best friend. My first mate if I ever become captain. In all honesty, you're the only one I'd want as my first kiss. Ryan smiled, leaning into her touch. You know, I probably need to hide from your siblings now. No, you won't. You're sure? It's just they're more than likely very skilled at hiding my body. Not to mention Mal and Uma would probably help them if Mal didn't incinerate me. As she proved today, she's gotten quite good at that. I kissed you. If they have a problem with it, they'll have to blame me. You didn't do anything I didn't want. Besides, they're busy. What with their own love lives or celebrating the fact that Freddie's gone. Speaking of Freddie, how are your knuckles?
Ryan rubbed his hand. Sore. But it's worth it.
He was glad Mal took him off to wash the blood off his hands before the execution. There was no way he wanted to touch CJ with blood on his hands.
Thank gods for Mal and her quick thinking, he thought.
CJ smiled, giving the bruises a small kiss. There. That always made me feel better whenever Harriet would do it when I was a kid. She claimed our mum would do it for her whenever she or Harry got hurt.
Thanks, Siege, Ryan said with a small smile. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah, but I wanted to. Ryan gave her another small smile.
Is this real?
It's real if you want it to be, CJ said, her voice no higher than a whisper. I'm not asking for anything, Ryan. Like I said, if you want the kiss to be our once and never talk about it again moment, we can.
CJ, Ryan said,
causing CJ to stop with her rambles and look at him.
I've wanted that kiss to happen for years. I didn't think I didn't want to mess up our friendship.
CJ smiled as she heard that. Then it's real, Rye. Just as real as you or me. Relax, we can take this slow if you want. I'm not expecting you to suddenly pin me to a wall and kiss me senseless. Not that I'd totally object if you did, but I know you probably won't, and that's okay.
Hey, as tempting as that sounds, I'm not exactly in the mood to be killed by your siblings, or Henry and Derek if I move too fast. You know, despite the fact Derek's still on the Isle and all. Besides, with how emotional today was, I think taking it slow would be the best approach.
Freddie dying is emotional.
Excitement is an emotion,
CJ nodded, and wrapped Diane's arm around her shoulder. She'd do slow, but she wouldn't hide. Come on.
Where are we going? Ryan asked as they stood up and resumed their walk.
Well, how much of this place have you actually seen?
Not much, honestly. Just Honeymoon Castle and Freddy's cell, then the trial room.
CJ grinned. Come on then. I've got something to show you that I think you'll like. She grabbed his hand and the two of them ran towards the Oradon prep pool.
Holy Poseidon!
You think this is good? Wait until you see the size of the gym they've got. Or as Harry's named it, the sparring room, CJ said with a chuckle.
Ryan smiled. I'm glad you guys are good, he said. You and Harry, I mean.
Me too, CJ nodded, resting a hand on Ryan's shoulder, as she saw a bit of grief cloud his eyes. She wasn't going to flaunt her new relationship with her brother to his face. Not when she knew he was still missing his sister. Yes, it had been months, but CJ knew no amount of time could ease the pain of grief. Harry showed her that, no matter how old they got, CJ knew he'd always miss their mother.
You know, I'm pretty sure this could fit the whole cove and still have room for the dogs,
Ryan said, shaking his head as if to push back the grief. Probably, CJ nodded.
Is this a hint you want to go swimming? Ryan asked, turning to look at her.
I mean, I'm always down for swimming if you want to. We don't have my swim clothes, but who cares? We're swimming our style, she said, grinning as she slipped off her shoes and jumped in. Last one in is a codfish.
No fair!
Ryan exclaimed as he chuckled, jumping in as well. I'm a pirate, Rye. Since when do we play fair? Ryan shook his head before his eyes widened in shock.
Whoa! This is warm!
Yep, sure is, CJ nodded.
How do people ever leave this pool to get anything done? Ryan asked, floating on his back.
Dunno, but it's perfect, so CJ said with a grin. The two of them smiled as they passed the time swimming, content to laugh and tease each other. It had been too long since they'd seen each other, and they were loath to leave the other's side. Through their glee, they didn't notice that they'd attracted the attention of two particularly attentive siblings.
What is he doing?
Harry muttered to Harriet. It appears he and CJ have gone swimming, Harriet said with a shrug. Really, Harry? You dragged me to the pool because our sister's on a date? How did you even find out about this?
Celia told me.
Harry shrugged. How'd she know? CJ told her she'd be with Ryan. Harriet shook her head. I was with Sammy, you know. Besides, Ryan practically raised my Henry. You know perfectly well he won't do anything to CJ, and even if he tries, our sister will skewer him with her sword so fast we won't have time to blink.
She's too young.
Didn't she just turn 16 back in December?
Exactly my point.
Weren't you in love with Uma as young as 9? I think 16 is perfectly old enough to be with a boy.
Harriet!
Not in that way. Get your mind out of the gutter, Harry. I just mean... Look, Ryan's one of Henry's best friends, meaning he's not going to jump from girl to girl just because he can, like Dustin does with his flings, said Harriet, shaking her head. You are definitely insane. You know that? I'm going back to see Sammy. Don't you dare interrupt them. Just then, as if knowing her siblings were watching, CJ swam over to Ryan and kissed his cheek.
That's it,
Henry muttered and started walking towards the edge. Stubborn idiot! He could be spending time with Uma, yet he's rather trying to make sure his little sister's a spinster or something. Harriet sighed and tackled Harry. Unfortunately, this resulted in the two older Hook siblings landing in the pool.
For Hades' sake, Harriet, if you wanted to go swimming, you didn't have to bring me with you,
Harry exclaimed. You know perfectly well why I did it, Harrison. You're going to interrupt CJ and Ryan after seeing that kiss on the cheek. Don't even try to deny it. I think I know how my own brother at this point. CJ shook her head. Come on, she muttered to Ryan, before my suddenly overprotective brother decides to interrogate you.
You know we did that the day after you left for Oradon, Ryan asked. Asked me about my intentions with you.
Oh, for the love of... Come on. I'm going to show you the gym before I murder my brother, CJ said, rolling her eyes before taking Ryan by the hand and the two of them walking off to get some sparring in. Neither one of CJ's older siblings noticed, as the slight argument had turned into a splash fight. Good, CJ thought. I mean, I appreciate it, Harry. I really do. But I can take care of myself. Besides, out of all the people in Oradon, Ryan's the last one you need to worry about hurting me. He's my best friend, after all, who I'm now in a flirtationship with. Though she couldn't help but smile slightly at the thought of, after all of this, there was a strong likelihood there'd be something more. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Absolutely like that one. Oh yay, Ryan and CJ, sweet little couple getting started. I like that. Even if they're not fully official yet. Really like it. I like that they're taking it slow and, you know, him saying that Freddy's death was exciting. Nice. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.